Before we dive deeper, as in every module, let's have a quick look at the workflow again. We understand the data preparation and the query editor now, therefore we are now in the data model finally. In this data model, we'll work on our prepared data set, and in this module, we'll focus on to the data modeling part. The data modeling part consists of the data view and the relationship view. Now, we'll dive deeper into the data view soon when we have a look at this DAX language I was just referring to, but to get started now, let's first have a look at the relationship view. I'm back in our course project, and in case you followed along, you can just continue here. In case you didn't do so, you can find the project attached to this lecture. I'm in the report view at the moment. The report view will be covered in the next module though, but we have to create a very simple visual to dive into relationships now. For this, I'll just again select here our good old stacked column chart, make it a bit bigger here and center it like this. And now we can add some information. This is the data we prepared. So let's say we want to have the population here as the values. And we can also use our year down here for the axis. Simple visual now, but enough for our purposes. However, you could say that you want to have more information in this visual, because if you remember back our dim age table, for example, this one, and if you increase the width a bit right here, we have these age categories we created. So baby, teenager, adult, and so on. What if you want to have this information in your chart? So you want to have the population for each year differentiated for these different age categories. Well, if you do so, you can just take this field and drag and drop it into the legend part of our visual, like this. Now this visual can't be displayed. And the problem here is that we don't have any connection between our dim age table and the fact population table. At the moment, these are separate tables. We have these age IDs in both tables though, so this should be our point of entry, you could say, for both to know what the other table contains. But at the moment, the missing link is what's causing the problem here. And this brings us to the relationships now. For this, we go to the third option down here. And there you have an empty view at the moment. This is just not perfectly organized, you could say. If you go to the right a bit here, you can see the dim region table. And further to the right, you can also see the dim age table and the fact population table. And you can simply drag and drop these as you want. So if you left click onto the tables, you can, for example, position the fact population table here in the center, because it will be the table which is kind of in between the dim region and the dim age table. Therefore, we could position it here in the center, and you could drag this to the left and increase the size a bit. So you can just make this a bit more beautiful if you want to, maybe like this. Or let's maybe make this a bit smaller, as we will need the space. So, as I said, the problem here is that we don't have a communication between our age table, this one right here, and the fact population table. If we now select our age ID, because as we learned, the ID is our connection point between our two tables, and if you now go to the fact population table, you can connect it to specific fields of this table. You know that the age ID field should be the correct one. However, let's say you don't know how this works and you just drag it to the population field right here. You see this arrow here, maybe if I drag it right here, you have this arrow here, which tells you that a relationship was established. I'll dive deeper into this arrow, the asterisk and the 1 in a few minutes. But for the moment, we can see that some kind of connection was established here. But if we go back to the report view now, you see that the error is gone. So there is kind of a connection between our two tables now, apparently, but the age categories are not displayed. The reason for that is that if we go back to relationship view and now hover over this line right here, you can see the problem. At the moment, our relationship is established between the age ID and the population column. Well, this is obviously wrong. So what we can do now here is we can simply delete this relationship and, well, confirm this. And now simply recreate it between the age ID field in the dim age table and the fact population table. In the report view now, you can see our visual changed, and if I now hover over a certain part of the visual, you see that these are the seniors, these are the teenagers, here we have the young adults, and down here we have the adults as our age group. So this relationship was now successfully established. Therefore, we can now use the information from the fact population table and the dim age table combined in our visual. However, if we say we don't want to view our data by different age categories, but for different regions, then what do we have to do? Well, we have to go to the dim region table here. Now take our region name and use it here in the legend. Now the age category was replaced, and as you can see, we get the same problem because there is no connection between the dim region and the fact population table. But as we have the country ID here and down there, we can again establish a relationship. And for this, we just go back to our relationship view and now go to the country ID column here in the dim region table and drag and drop it to the country ID column in the fact population table. Let me also drag this down a bit to see this connection here a bit better. And with that, if we go back to the report view, you see now we have the data categorized for different regions. And you can, for example, see that the population in Africa is expected to grow a lot, and Asia also has a very huge population count. So this is how you can create relationships. And if we go back to the menu one last time, you also have options to manage existing or create new relationships. You saw the drag and drop option we just used, but you also have more detailed ways to interact with your relationships. For this, you can select Manage Relationships here in the Home ribbon, right here. And here you can see your current relationships that you have in your data model. At the moment, we have the connection between the fact population and the dim age table, and the fact population and the dim region table. Down here, you have plenty of options on how to interact with these relationships. You can create a new one. You can auto-detect relationships in your data model, an option we disabled in the options earlier in the course. You can edit the relationships or you can delete relationships. Creating new ones would work like this. You create a new one. You select a table, for example, fact population, and then again the dim age table, and then you select the corresponding fields or column you want to base the connection between these two tables to. At the moment, this is not working because there is already a relationship between these two columns. So let's close this menu here. Editing relationships also works in the same menu. So you select the relationship right here and then press edit. Here you can now change the table you're referring to, the columns as we saw it before, and of course also the same thing down here for the second table, which should be part of this relationship. So this is how this menu basically works. So we can also close this one. Deleting would work the same way. You can just press delete right here. However, if we go back to this edit menu now, you saw down here that we have some other options. We have cardinality, the cross-filter direction, and make this relationship active. These are 3 important topics you have to understand when it comes to working with relationships. Therefore, let's dive into these in the next lectures.